Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts Damien Boat and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 141. Sorry to those.
Even I knew that. Ta-da!
Yeah. Sorry to those OCD people keeping track. It's 141. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Anyway, and apologies if I sound like a creepy man that hangs out at the park. I've had a cold. So, Catherine, does this cloth smell like chloroform? No. What a pickup line. Anyway. How's your week?
Sick. Can you look down my throat? Do I look inflamed to you?
What a weird thing. Would that be that'd be a way to pick a doctor up, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Have you seen, although, they're doctors, poor doctors, I have friends who are MDs, and, the last thing you want to do is you're at a party and someone says, I have this weird rash. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's what I really want to see at dinner. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but look, that's what happens when you're a professional.
It does.
Yeah, well, think about, for me, I can go somewhere to a barbecue or a dinner, and there's always there's people you don't know, and they say, "What do you do?" And you tell them, straight away they're like, "Oh, well, actually, I've got a TV that's not doing." Like,
oh man. Well, and I would we've talked about this before. As soon as someone who does not know me well says, "Oh, you're a writer. I've always wanted to be a writer. My life would make a really interesting story." That's the sense. That's the whole introduction. And so I just say, "Oh, that's great. I'm a coach, and I charge $100 an hour, and I would love to help you finish your project." And they light out. They can't get away from me faster. It's wonderful.
That's what I should start doing. I should say, "Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm happy to come out and have a look at it for you, but it's going to be $85.
Right. This costs you, but I'm worth it. It stops them just dead in their tracks, and that's exactly what your goal is.
Or in my case, always find a company that you don't like, and then if you get those strange people ringing up, say, "Look, we don't actually deal with domestic stuff. Please ring these guys."
Yeah, we talked about that. You've done that before. It was like, let me just recommend this. That's also a system when we talk next week about writing at work.
Yes.
That's also a technique. If you get a recommendation for somebody, like they're doing inter-office, kind of transfers, or they're, going to bump them up, and someone writes, "I cannot recommend Susie to your department highly enough."
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're in trouble.
Yep. No, yep. I do it on a regular basis. This week, we're meant to have Alicia Dunams on how to write a book in a weekend, which I'm very keen to talk to her about this, because as everyone knows, I'm sort of just plodding away slowly but surely. I'd love to get it done in a weekend. I've got way too much crap on. Now, she's actually stuck in traffic at the moment, so we're hoping that she can jump on soon. But we're still going to talk about it a little bit.
Yes, we are.
Because how does one write a book in a weekend? I'm trying to work it out from a maths point of view. Maybe that's why this is doing my head in. You've effectively got 48 hours. So
Do you wish you could have more visibility?
Whoa.
Hold on.
Want to easily charge higher rates?
Great. There's ads on the site.
Her website, because I was going on the website, and the bookseller her bookseller in a weekend at aliciadunams.com has just video on how to write probably a little bit about how to write the book, and then a lot about sign up, and we'll take you through it for a certain amount of money.
Right. Well.
Okay, so go ahead.
So, but I'm trying to work it out. So if you got 48 hours or something in a weekend, but it's not going to be that because you need to sleep at some point. So really, even if you were to smash out a 14-hour day, so yeah, how's that going to work?
So let's say you have 14 hours per day. So that's 28 hours. So how would you break that down? So let's always walk through it. Let's say it's like, all right, I'm going to write a book now. Here's the first thing that I suspect, and I've heard Alicia speak. She's lovely. She's very energetic and interesting. she's talking about, and this approach is for nonfiction books.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. This isn't about write your fabulous fantasy book in 2 days. It's not about, going to happen in 48 hours.
Yeah.
This is a nonfiction. So that makes a big difference in how you approach, on how you can approach the project and what you can expect to do within the project and the time parameters.
Yeah, but then if you were to, even that, we'll just copy and paste it from Wikipedia. You can write a book in 20 minutes. No, it might not be right, but yeah. Even then, you've still got typing. I mean, if imagine you were to do, I don't know, 1,000 words an hour, then that's in one day. I guess you could get 12 to 13,000 words done.
Yeah.
Be a short book, 28,000 words.
But you're not doing what she's probably proposing, and what I do propose when I work with clients who are working on their nonfiction books. You're not starting from scratch. So you're not writing this. The idea of writing a book on the weekend is not about starting from scratch. What it is about is spending some time before that weekend and gathering up all the materials. So let's say you wanted to write a book on your AV business. How to easy installation for huge schools where nobody knows what they're doing. And you want to write your book. What you're going to do is you're going to pull in all the manuals that you've created. You're going to pull in all the information that you've ever given on emails or walk somebody through something. So you're going to start with a lot of material before you, quote, write the book over the weekend.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there are some things, though, and that's actually a thing we should talk about, too, if it's when it comes to nonfiction, how the practicality of doing something versus what's written in a book. Like you referred to, and we'll talk a little bit more about this next week with how to write for work, but you talked about manuals that you've got. We always grab an installation manual that comes with a kit or something. When we open it up, we go, right, that's wrong. Like if we've got 10 rooms to do, we do the first one to the letter, and we realize that, the manual's out by 20 millimeters, or it's out by something, and that can be a big difference. And so we correct it, we work it out, and once it's perfect, some of our manuals has myself and my contractors like slashing pages going, wrong, and we get it all looking right, and then you just flow on, and you don't need the manual after that. So it is an interesting thing to compare. Like if I was to write something up, there is that risk that someone else might pick up my manual and go, well, that's not right. So yeah.
And do you think it's because with anything, there's always going to be some sort of physical difference, or there's going to be variations, no matter how much you want to pin down your world and make it absolute. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and it rarely does. And you'll see this as well, and you see it on those TV shows too, which is amazing. I don't know how they manage to make what they're doing on the TV show match what should be in the manuals. So it'll be things like, okay, so we're going to use these screws that they give you in the packet, and we're going to put them up on the stud wall. Find the stud, and it's like, right, that is never in the right spot. How come yours is perfectly in the middle where they want to hang the TV or they want to put the mirror up? Because
they looked ahead of time.
Rubbish. Like, it just does not happen. So anyway, that's my whinge. You'll hear me whinge a lot next week.
So I think that's one of the first. That's what I think is the basic tenet of the idea of writing a book on a weekend, is that you're not starting from scratch in the weekend. You are working with a whole bunch of material and then managing the material, and that's what you're doing over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, but then how do you know you've got enough material to start that, though?
That is a really good question. And one of the challenges is that as you pull all your material, first of all, you have to read it. And then it's always troubling for some people. I don't want to read the stuff. Well, you're a writer. You're going to have to read.
Yes.
the other thing is you are correct. You may look like you have lots and lots of PowerPoint decks, or you're saying, wow, I've got all these, all these missives, and I've got all these letters, I've got all this great stuff. Well, a lot of it is going to be repetitive.
Mm.
And you're right. It's going to look like a lot, and then you're gonna go through your material and say, "Oh, I already talked about that. Oh, we already talked about that." So that's one of the challenges is you might be looking at 20,000 words where you first thought you might have had 50.
Yeah.
For your book. Yeah.
Can you still apply that just right though? Because I was just thinking, I was having this conversation with a chap called Alex Christie on Google Plus. And I'll tell him to listen now because I've shouted him out. But he was saying he was looking at writing something, but he wasn't sure. He was still trying to collate enough stuff. And I sort of said to him, yeah, but just write. You don't know where it might take you.
Right.
So even for non-fiction, because I'm not really into the non-fiction thing, can you just start, though, even if and find out, at least you've got somewhere. I mean, you might not do it in a weekend, but you might at least get 20,000 words down. Hey, then it's a start.
Yeah, what you would do next after you get all your material lined up is that you look at the blogs, or you look at the PowerPoint, you look at all of the instructional manuals, and then the next thing to do is you look at that and you say, oh, I always tell a story about those facts. I always tell a story about the time a client did A, and then this client did B, and then this client did C. That's when you're starting to really write, because you need to write down those stories, and that's going to start filling your book. So you give it a description, or in your case, maybe you would say, okay, put the slot A into tab B, whatever that looks like, and then you'll think, remember when I was doing McDonald's and they did this and then this happened? That's your story, and that's the next thing that you're going to put in your book.
Oh yeah. Well, I'd have a lot of them, but
yes, you do.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But that's what you write. So as soon as you say something like that, when you see some information and you say, oh my goodness, and then as soon as that comes out, then that's the story you need to put down in the book, because that'll have the power and that'll make it interesting for your readers.
Well, if you're writing a technical manual, is it commonplace to, like in my case, I'll write it in English, and then what I'll do is I'll translate it into Chinese and then translate it back into English?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to get my head around why none of them make sense.
Well, one of the reasons that technical manuals don't make sense is that they're written by technicians. They're not written by people with a command of whatever language you speak, whatever native language the people who pick up your books are. So I just, I showed you, go to IKEA, and there's the manual to assemble things, and it's in English, and it's in French, and it's in Chinese, and it's in Norwegian, and I think, oh man, whoever has the native speaker, let's say he or she was Chinese, they're the ones that got the best instructions, and the rest of us got kind of the secondhand information because it's been translated, and obviously things get lost in translation.
Yeah, but it comes back to don't write like you talk. Well, that's one of your books. How would you feel if you purchased something that was made in America, made in Australia, and it starts off with, all right, dudes, grab a cup of coffee and, open packet B?
I've come across, and I don't think I saved it, unfortunately, but I've come across instructions that had a little more of that flair to it, where they're a little chattier, they're being a little more friendly, and it's not bad, because you do feel sometimes that you're just adrift, and the people who wrote up these instructions have no grounding in your reality or even their reality. And so, I think a little chattier wouldn't be a bad thing. It's like, all right, got all those pieces, there may be a few extra, that's the way it goes, that kind of thing.
Well, if anyone's got any manuals, please send them to me, podcast@newbiewriters.com. And especially ones, like, if anyone's come across "Hey y'all" at the start of a manual, I want it. Hey y'all, this is how to de-sex a pig.
No on that.
Oh, but hey, look, The Texan's Guide to De-Sexing a Pig, I'm sure is a popular read. Anyway.
Well, perhaps in Texas, right?
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. I can be racist to them. I've never been there. Anyway, well, I don't want to sort of go through too many things about this until Alicia gets it, if she does.
If she does, so.
Otherwise, we'll be boring our listeners with asking the same questions twice. I mean, they listen to that every week. Tell me, let's just go off track a bit.
All right.
I've been meaning to ask, you've had a book at a publisher now since November?
Yeah, since November.
What's happening with that? And do we need to make an official podcast complaint to them?
Actually, I finally heard from the senior editor, and she is handing off the manuscript to an editor in August. So I should be hearing for them relatively soon. For me, in another lifetime. So while I've been waiting around, I got some of the beta reads back from the second book in the Future Girl series.
Mm-hmm.
I have incorporated those. I redid the first part of the opening chapter of the book. You'll be happy to hear because you like it. So I changed it, and I also just outlined the third book. So by having all of these lined up, when I go to do the edits for Future Girls, I can make sure everything lines up correctly, and that is a pretty good opportunity.
Well, are you up for talking a little bit about the beta read?
Yeah.
Thing?
Let's talk about what happens when you send things out innocently for your beta readers.
Yes. Right. And I like the way, and for those, obviously, I'm the grumpy cat on this show, that I give honest feedback. So, and this is how I work as well. There's become a thing now. I have clients sort of refer me on, and I'll have another client ring me and say, "Oh, so-and-so said that you tell it like it is and there's no crap with you, and that's what we want," right? So that word is spreading. But when it comes to friends, it's probably not the best tack to take. But I couldn't help myself, so I do apologize. But yeah, the start of your second book was woeful. And only not from a writing point of view. It was written okay, but from a comparison point of view. So to catch people up, Catherine's first book that's at the publisher, it really starts off like a bull in a china shop. Kind of literally, actually, because they're throwing rocks at a church.
Right, they're throwing rocks at things, yes. There's a riot. That's a good way to start. So
you start off with a riot, which there's never been a peaceful riot that I'm aware of, okay? So you've got that going on, and you've got a few other sort of very poignant sort of topics and challenging topics about, religion versus those who don't follow that sort of stuff, all this sort of thing. Whereas the second book sort of starts off with setting tables in a pub. And it was a big sort of difference. I was hoping and from a reader's point of view, I was hoping that when you open that book, it'd start off with well, hang on, we've come from riots, and heck, you even had a rape scene in the first book, which is pretty full on. And I was thinking, well, we've got to be at least at that level. And then it's oh, she's setting forks.
Yeah.
So that's where it started off.
Not so good.
Not so good. But did you get that feedback overall from others, or did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you are not alone. You are not alone. In fact, I have feedback from I think 4 people at this point. So I sent out again for writers when you're saying, okay, I'm going to send this. I'm going to send out my manuscript. I don't know what to do with it anymore. So I need feedback. I sent out this book. I am calling it Good as Gold. I'm not sure about the title even now. I need to get snappier than that. So I sent out the second Future Girls book, and I sent it to 11 readers, maybe even 12 readers, and I got feedback from 4 with the 5th or maybe even a 6th on the way. So, know that you're not going to get everything back because people have the best intentions but not a lot of time, and they're doing you a favor. So I definitely look at it that way. So for the 4 who already returned and talked to me, all of them said, it was great. I really got into it, but wow, that opening's chapter was really slow. It was really hard to get. They use words like it's hard to get into. Didn't grab me. You were the only one who used woeful. And I appreciated that, because how else am I going to know? Because I get really wedded to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. But I think...
And the feedback was helpful, because it made me rethink the whole background for my main character. And by shifting, here's what I did. By shifting the background for her, now we know that she is part of what they call a time cult.
Right.
The year is 5 years after Charity has changed her world in California.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say, so people doesn't ruin the book for people. So it's 2150, and we've got a time cult on the East Coast, because the East Coast, it looks very similar to what Charity started out with at the beginning of Future Girls. And so at the time cult, they're trying to channel energy, and they are purposely trying to time travel, just like Charity's mother was as well. And there's an enormous explosion.
Right.
And so I tried to start the second book out with literally a bang.
See, that's a bit better, because you need to, and that was what like I was trying to get into. You're in a second book in a series, regardless of if there's a billion years in between them, you need to link them somehow. Otherwise, there's no point in it being in that
in a series.
in the series. So I think that's why I said to you that your book should really start at the end of the first chapter, because it felt more like a bit of a brain dump. Like, well, this is the setting that I'm getting into.
Right.
Which
Classic mistake, actually. Because I'm trying to line everything up to quote, give you the background, unquote. And of course that's ridiculous. What you really want to do is you want to get into the book. You want to get into the action, and then we'll figure out who the heck all these people are in chapter 4 and in chapter 8.
Yeah, and just disperse it, and just shuffle things around a bit. But hey, at least you've got something that you can send out there to work. And this comes back again to these people that just you write it in your own home, and then you go, ooh, look at that, smash words, click, or Kindle Direct or whatever it is. You just upload it to Amazon, bam, out it goes, and then that book is out there, and people can read it and give you those reviews, going, oh, yeah, okay, didn't start off very well, 2-star. I've put this book, because people will put books down.
Absolutely, of course they'll put them down. I mean, and in a way, it's so out there now, because people can't. I mean, all of us can just publish immediately, and it takes a lot of patience. Believe me, a lot of patience to put up with a more traditional or legacy publisher. But at the same time, that legacy or traditional publisher, or going through something like She Writes, where it's a collaborative, you get those editors, you get some more feedback about your book. Or what I do, which is get the beta readers. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm not editing that out.
I'm catching your cold.
I know.
Stop breathing on me.
I'm trying not
to.
Get
the beta readers who really help you with all that structure stuff. And like, I have one friend who just goes to the manuscript and just highlights stuff that she doesn't get. So I have an opportunity to look at that and say, oh, I was really clear in my head, but apparently it wasn't very clear in the manuscript, and I can fix that. That's huge. Then you can take it to an editor, and then you can start shopping it out, or at that point, publishing it like through Kindle or Smashwords.
If you make big changes, though, would you send that back out for a beta read if you've made a massive change to the whole thing?
No, I don't think so.
Well, how do you know you got it right in the second round?
I don't know. Maybe I'll send you the first chapter again.
Don't send it to me. It's just never ending. I'm never happy with anything.
I'll just be stuck in this second book loop.
Yeah.
Forever.
I'm waiting for someone to send me an email and go, you've always got a cold. Maybe if you're a bit more happier, then you wouldn't get colds all the time. Shut up. Yeah, I don't know. I am feeling that urge to write a bit more again. I don't know, maybe because I've been so busy. It sort of niggles. I don't know, my brain's going, you should have a break and go and do some writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know what. But,
Well, and I think that we go through phases in our careers and in our life. And so when you're, as you said, when you're flat out, in a career, and you have a relationship that you'd like to at least touch base with, and you've got a little person that you at least want to make sure is eating, that's all huge, and it's really dramatically difficult to kind of carve out that a little bit extra time. So you got to look at it and say, 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to write first thing in the morning, and that's going to be good enough. Because I don't believe that people have that much energy at night to write, because I'm exhausted by nighttime. So I don't see.
But mind you, I'm getting up earlier and earlier to go to work. So
yeah, see, and if you're getting up super early because you got to drive to whatever site you are, your job is, it's not fair to beat yourself up. That's what I'm saying.
No, but I think if people because I know Courtney listens to every show. If she wants to if she's bored one weekend, go and listen through, and you'll probably find that I must be on some 3-month cycle. It's every 3 months, I'm going to do some more writing. Okay. So maybe we need to make this podcast a 3-monthly show. How weird would that be? Go for 4 hours.
There you go. The 4-hour show, and then you chop it up and post it during the month, and then we're good to go.
No, you just do it all in one hit. No, I'm not spending an hour cutting up a show. Imagine that, though. Hey, Catherine, what have you done in May?
Insert month here.
Yeah. God, that's what they should have. You should be able to get a template podcast.
There you go. Just put in all of your info.
Yeah, welcome to...
That would be funny. That would be very funny.
You could just have an intro and then have someone say, and welcome to insert your show name here.
Yeah. And then run it. I had a friend of mine who is a brilliant photographer, but just learning how to do outreach and promotional stuff. So she put together a newsletter. So she gets a newsletter up, a lot of images, obviously, because she's a photographer, and she gets everything up. I help her with some of the languaging, sets it up on eye contact, fires it off, and at the very top of the newsletter that goes to all of us, it says, "Dear contact."
Yes.
We just cracked up, and she has a really good attitude, so she's just laughing. She says, "So, did you like my newsletter contact?"
Well, actually, I went for a job interview. We were talking about this in pre-show, but I went for a job interview once, and I got the job, actually. No, it was their contract of offer was a generic template.
Oh.
So it had, dear, so I think dear Damien. At least they got that bit right. And then it had insert company here in brackets. Wishes to offer you the following position of insert job title here. And I'm going, seriously, I'm not signing this.
They had pulled that. It's a little vague, just saying.
You're hiring me as a tech, but you haven't put any reference to that. It was just terrible. Took it back to them. Seriously, at least put my job description in there. Oh, sorry. Must have overlooked that. Oh, and while you're at it, not happy with the amount you're paying me.
Let's switch that too.
Yeah. So anyway, now have you heard back from Alicia? I haven't seen her pop up on my screen yet.
I have not. I've been monitoring my emails. I think she just got stuck in New York traffic, which is, I'm sure, fierce. And you will either reschedule or there you go.
We'll just cast her out.
Her website is, let's do the website. It's it's Alicia Dunams, so ALICIA Dunams or Dunams, DUNAMS.com, and we'll put this in the show notes. And her program is Bestseller in a Weekend. And she also has another program, 60 Days to Six Figures.
Really.
It's valuable to check her out and go on her website and see what she has to offer.
60 days to. Well, I need to talk to her.
Yeah,
we'll have her back on. What we might be able to do is Courtney Killian from, I think it's What Not to Write and Tips.WordPress or something like that. Oh, it'll be in the show notes. I can't remember that long email. They sent me in a dead piece. She spoke when she was on our show. She spoke about writing a fantasy type piece, and I've got it here. So how about we do a little little dead.
Let's be dead. That sounds like a good idea.
Especially as I sound like the Grim Reaper anyway.
Must be this dusty old tome.
Dusty old tome's actually in a Word format, but that's fine.
We have to use our imagination nowadays.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll just read the first 2 paragraphs. But the imminent storm came and the clouds surrounded the house. Julie, who absolutely despised storm clouds, decided to go upstairs and wait the storm out. However, when she got to her room, there was a loud crack of thunder and lightning struck, and suddenly the room shifted and looked like a completely different room. Julie's instinctive sense of mystery came to her. Okay.
Use that.
I have an instinctive sense of bullshit. She knew she had to figure out what was going on, and fast. What's going on? Where am I? What is this place? Julie's head was spinning with questions. She was just in her room. What had happened? Hey, hang on. I am waiting for David Bowie to come out right now in tight pants, holding a glass ball, going, "Hello, Julie.
Yeah.
Would you like to come on an adventure?" Did the storm...
Well, I'm sorry. I just have to insert. I love descriptions like that where it says Julie's head was spinning. Wow, my head is really spinning, thought Julie.
Yes, and pea soup was going everywhere. Did the storm have anything to do with it, and why was it suddenly quiet outside? She decided to get away from this strange room. She had to see if the rest of the house was normal. She opened her bedroom door, and it suddenly led to outside. Dun, dun, dun. How in the world did I get here? She asked herself. I was upstairs and now appear to be in some sort of jungle. Maybe I should explore to see what I can find out. But first... ... I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, probably best.
Hey, but there's 15 pages, so good on you for writing that much.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yes.
I feel better about my stuff that I've been wrestling with for the last month.
Hey, at least there was a storm in this one. Not
I know.
Storm in a
At least there
teacup.
was more excitement than setting the table. Now there's more excitement. I get big-ass explosions, so it's okay.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
Yeah. Unless is it going to be like, are there zombies in yours now?
No zombies. No zombies.
That's what you should do. You should do an offshoot series called Future Zombies.
Well, in the third book, I have goblins, and so that's...
Really?
Yes, I do.
Where did they come from?
That's part of what the book's theme is, yes.
Cool. I like the goblins. Are they going to be steampunkish? I know you like your steampunk.
I do like steampunk. I am not sure what they're going to look like, but it's partially there's a Christine Rossetti poem called The Goblin Market, and I wrote a poem not based on the Goblin Market, but using the idea of the Goblin Market, kind of a post-apocalyptic poem.
Mm-hmm.
Going across poem, and I'm going to use that information and transfer it over and use it in the third Future Girl book. So that's where that comes from.
I see.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing for you. What do you do when you come across something that you realize is basically the same as what you've been writing? So I had written a scene a long time ago, and I was actually watching Lord of the Rings. And my bit's very similar to this bit.
Yeah.
Does one change it, or does one just carry on and go, meh? Similar.
If it's the first draft,
Yes.
I would carry on. I would keep going, and we're influenced all the time, all the time. And in fact, there's a whole book called The Ecstasy of Influence, and so the idea that you're writing in a vacuum is patently ridiculous and impossible. So if you look and you say, oh, that's just like The Matrix, and I had no idea that that influenced me for this particular scene, what I would do is mark that and say, wow, just like The Matrix. Keep going, because the further you get into that manuscript, the more it's going to be yours and original, and it's going to be less derivative. So you can get all the way through and then go back and say, oh, you know what? I don't even need this scene because I've done something much more interesting later on in the book with that subject.
I see. Well, I'm going to have to do that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just struck me as odd. I thought, that it's not identical, but the start of it's close enough that made me went, oh, that's a little bit similar.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, and you just kind of see, if you can notice that and say, that's a little similar. That's the start, because then it's better you than a reviewer to say, oh my gosh, this is just like the such and such book, and then go back and modify it. You can re-edit it. You can say, oh, okay, we're going to make this completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a fine line though. Like there's people responding saying, oh, that's a bit too much like such and such a book. Or then there's those people that blatantly do it. I was channel surfing last night, and I stumbled on I think Julian was watching some cartoon and left the other TV on, and flicking through, saw it, and I, this is a direct rip-off of every sort of not medieval, but fantasy game that's out there. They were using terms that were in some games that you can play. And I'm going, right. So I Googled it. And everyone's like, yeah, it's such a rip-off of Final Fantasy. And I'm thinking, yeah, but they're not hiding it whatsoever.
Right. They're just doing it. They're just saying, because in Hollywood, when they're developing any show, what they want to do is they want it to be like other things. That's your ticket. That's how you get something done. You say, well, it's just like Final Fantasy, only there's a girl and a snake, or whatever they've done to change it up a little bit. And then the producers say, great, that's something we understand. All right, let's go. If you do something completely original, freaks them out.
Yeah, but then can't win.
But then we get, as consumers, we get things that are continually derivative, essentially. And then that is frustrating as a consumer, because you keep consuming. You feel like you're eating the same meal over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that annoys me. I wish, and here's a little bit of a rant, I wish Hollywood would get over Mad Max. We seem to constantly, maybe once a year, get a movie that's got just Mad Max written all over it. I watched Elysium the other day. That's a Mad Max ripoff, but it's crap.
Oh, thank you. I haven't seen it yet, and it looked a little complex. It looked complicated, not in a good way.
It's not complicated, though.
Oh, it's not?
Stupid. And also, what's her name? Jodie Foster?
Uh-huh.
Don't do a British accent. You're not British.
Some actors can do it, and some actors really shouldn't. So you're right.
But it had no grounding. It had no basis. Like, it didn't need to be in there. Like, they made no reference to her being British.
Did you just have to have... I think for Americans in particular, if you have a British accent, that means you're somehow more educated.
I think that's what they're trying to go for.
Yeah. Who knows why we believe that, but that is definitely a trope for the American audience. Oh, it's got a British accent, must be intelligent.
Yeah, and what I find silly is that Mad Max and all of those, like Elysium's supposed to be set in the future. So they got flying things around, and yet the people that sort of everyday people drive cars that we haven't been driving for 10 years, and they put some pipe on the front. Like, where does that come from? Oh, yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know. Just irked me.
I think it's hard. I mean, that's what I'm coming across. What can I project? What is going to to be the future? And who knows? I'm trying to think about driving in book 3. Can I have my heroine in a post-apocalyptic world that's fairly decimated? Can she drive? I mean, and how far and few between are the gas stations? All those practical things, because people want to know that. I mean, it's just like you with how come nobody goes to the bathroom in these books?
Yeah, well, there should be. But but okay, here's a question for you then, because you're in the future. Why are your vehicles gas powered?
Exactly. and that's part of my consideration is like, all right, are they, do you get, well, here's how you get around it. You only find an old car that only uses old fuel. And maybe the solar-powered cars have all blown up or something. I mean, there's ways around that.
Yes, but where do you find then the petrol to put in the cars?
Right, and that's one of my considerations. I really have to deal with it until November when I write this book, this third book for National Novel Writing Month. But until then, it's exactly right. It's like, all right, how would you do that? And do people do cars at all, or all sorts of cool stuff to think about.
Yeah, and also, and if you're going to watch Elysium, I'd like your sort of feedback on it. It also seems somewhat slightly racist because the people that are the poor people are all Spanish. So I don't know.
Remember remember where Hollywood is and what California is? That doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, it's set in Los Angeles.
Had poor people all be Latino, and the wealthy people are all white and in their locked, enclaves. That's very Southern California.
Well, yeah, it's set in Los Angeles, and then.
Oh, there you go.
But what seems strange is they're all sort of, Latino, Mexican, Spanish, that sort of stuff, and then there's Matt Damon in the middle. The whitest Spanish person on the planet, clearly. So yeah, this is why I stopped watching movies just like at home before bed. In fact, this is why I stopped watching movies in general, because it like wrecks my evening. Because I sit there going, nah, crap. Anyway.
Now that's why I have you read my books.
Yes, if anyone wants me to be a beta reader. Oh God. Drop me a line. You'll get the worst review back.
Yes, you will, but it'll be valuable.
Mind you, I have read some, short stories or whatever and sent them back and gone, yeah, that was really good. Trying to think of the chap's name now. I bought one of his books. It was like 90 cents. And it was a short story, and I messaged him back and said, seriously, this needs to be longer because it's very good. I feel like you're only just starting it. And he said, okay, we'll wait for part 2. I'm still waiting for part 2.
Oh, well, maybe he'll do it. That would be cool. So do you want to do a word of the week?
Sure. What's the word of the week this week?
What is the word of the week?
Okay, so this came from Arlene Miller's Weird and Wonderful Words series from bigwords101.com. Ooh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like someone made this up that had too much time on their hands. Janitrix.
There you go.
So Janitrix. Noun. Like we need to. Yeah. A female janitor. Fortunately, according to the OED, the word is rare. Is it related to dominatrix? Right.
Yeah, unless she comes at you with a broom and a mop.
Yeah, dressed in leather.
Yeah. And knee pads.
Right. Imagine that mopping the floors in the hallway, walking past going, is it all right if I step on the tiles? And then she says, only if you use this safe word.
Yeah. There you go.
Janitrix. I've never heard that before, and I don't know where.
That's why I thought I'd throw it in.
Where would you wouldn't use it?
No.
Surely. We're looking for a janitor or a janitrix? No, people would go, what sort of place is this?
Right.
Plus, janitor's
very... are looking for, right?
Well, janitor's very American, though, isn't it? I don't think we don't have janitors here.
What do you have?
Well, cleaners.
Cleaners, okay.
Or groundsmen.
So if you locked yourself out of your office and you needed the keys, who do you go to?
The boss.
No, not the boss. I go to the janitor. They have all the keys.
Oh, okay. Well, no. Okay. I work in schools a lot, so if we were looking for a key, we'd go to the groundsman or the groundskeeper or
groundskeeper.
Yeah, or you just go to grounds, and if there's a female there, so be it. But it's usually the groundskeeper.
Okay, and we would call it. We would probably still use janitor.
Right. Well, because to me, like janitor seems more like just the cleaning person. So a lot of schools have cleaners; they contract those in, and then there's the groundskeeper or groundsman who looks after the grounds, does all the mowing
Right.
the lawns, fixing the fences, that sort of stuff. I think it'd be a bit
I
weird.
was a groundskeeper. I went to school in California where everything was just dirt. Do we have grounds? I can't even remember if we even had plants or grass or anything.
Right. You've been to Australia. You've seen our...
That's true. Yes, I have. Probably the same problem.
We have grass and trees.
Yes, you do. More than we do.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think about, would you have a groundskeeper tricks?
Yeah. A ground tricks.
Ground tricks. Yeah, that's weird.
Yes, it is.
Female
every
groundskeeper.
time, for the most part, you have a basic noun and you're trying to turn it into a feminine version in the English language. It usually does not end well.
No.
Literally.
I don't know. Do people get really that offended? Like if we're all about, a police officer. You can't say policeman. Like,
correct.
Does it really matter?
I think so. One of the reasons that it matters is that if you just call everybody a policeman, that gives the impression that only 50% of your population is allowed to do that job. Mm. And that's why there was such a push in the 70s to include, instead of saying, he will go to, we need a volunteer, will he step forward? And we changed that to we need a volunteer, will he or she step forward? We had buried 50% of our people under language. And so it does matter. And I think more neutral things, it's a mail carrier, it's a janitor, it's a firefighter. It's not hard to shift that up and make those broader, those titles having broader and more comprehensive.
I find myself trying to put in like he or she. If I'm talking to a group of teachers and I'm referring to a teacher being able to do something, I'm like, if he or she's conducting the class, but on the whole, I'm standing there in front of like 10 females and 1 male, and he's not really interested. So I think at the end of the day, who really cares?
You have the opposite problem.
Yeah, because look, from what I've seen, it seems the bulk of teachers are female. I don't know why. Maybe they're just more tuned to it.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. People would argue because it's a lower paying job, and that's what women were able to get initially when women started to work outside the home. It was you could be a nurse or you could be a teacher, and that has ghettoized those two professions, and so men are reluctant to go into them, regardless of whether or not they have talent, which is too bad because I know a lot of very talented male teachers, and you need more.
Yeah, I just noticed yesterday I was in a school staff room putting a projector in, and it was like a gaggle of geese. I'm like, oh my God. And there's just 2 guys at the end just sort of eating their lunch, like, seriously, we should be at the pub. Like,
just keeping their head down. It's like, don't make eye contact.
Yeah. Just every conversation from, I can't do that because my fingernails react to the thing that the lady, like, anyway.
It can be gruesome. I absolutely would agree with that. It can be very gruesome. So
glad I don't work in an office and work with one other guy.
Yeah, it saves you from a lot, no question.
Yeah, it's no politics. No politics whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's very helpful. That's a nice thing to avoid.
Yes. Speaking of which, should we do a tortured sentence?
Let's do a tortured sentence.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences.
That's probably Alicia in traffic.
Yes, I think it definitely is. That's how I feel in traffic.
Yes. All right. So where'd this come from?
This is from another student paper.
Mm. Also, speaking on one's own experiences, the thought that comes to mind is the curiosity of a problem that seems to have manifested over time. Right. Okay. What thought?
I like the curiosity. I like the curious problem.
Mm-hmm. Which is what?
I don't know because the problem is that the problem's curious, but it manifested over time.
Yeah. And they're speaking from their own experience, but we don't know what that experience is.
That is correct. And there's no reference back to it. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful tortured sentence.
Right. What was the point of it, though? Like, what was the point of the thing that they were supposed to be writing about?
I believe that this assignment was to explore or write about how you write a paper without bias.
Okay.
I know, it doesn't have anything, it doesn't relate at all, does it?
No, but you see, if you're going to say, I want you to write a paper about not having, or without bias, people will go, right, that just means I need to be vague.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
and
biased.
That's wrong, because a vague paper is an unsubstantiated paper, and it's also an uninteresting paper.
Yeah. We should do a test. You should, if you've got a thing coming up soon that you need someone to write, I don't know, how long are these assignments typically?
Oh, they're anywhere from 500 words to 2,500 words.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to go down a path, and I thought, shit, if you turn around and say it needs to be 10,000 words, then I'm not going to be able to do that because I just don't have time. But if it's only 500 to 1,000, I'm sure I could bang that out.
Yeah.
Can you give me the next topic or the current topic, and I'll see if I can write one?
Sure. I've got this class going on right now.
All right. Yeah. Send me when the show's done.
We'll send you the assignment.
Do it. But the only thing is, I've got no grounding, like in the sense of these people have been in this course, so I'm just doing this completely cold. And I'd love to see.
No, I'll send you the whole syllabus, so at least you've got an idea of what's going on.
Oh, this hole is getting deeper. The whole
syllabus. Yes, it is, isn't it? You brought it up.
Yeah. Awesome.
This is fun. I'm making a note. Send Damien the syllabus for critical thinking. Awesome.
Great. And then we're going to have when we say, where did this come from? You can say, yours. Anyway.
We'll see if you recognize your own bad sentences.
No, I think I could. That'd be great. And then you can grade it.
Okay.
You're the teacher on this show, so teach.
All right, I will. I do try to teach you, and then you ignore me and you don't do your writing.
I know. Oh well, detention.
Yeah.
Didn't get enough of that at high school. Now, prompt.
Prompt. This is so funny because I wrote this prompt, for the show notes a week ahead of time, and it's just perfect because we were just talking about cars.
Yes.
So here's our prompt. Describe the perfect car. Describe the most expensive, fastest, coolest car on the planet. And then what would you change on this fabulous car? What would you change if you owned it? Or what would change if you owned it? If you owned the car, how would that change your life?
It'd probably smell like I lived in it.
I don't want to leave you.
I don't know. I think the perfect car is the car that you buy at the time. Oh, that's profound.
That's too pragmatic. The perfect car would be, like a Jaguar with fins and air conditioning and automatic food. When you drive it, you look immediately thinner and younger. I mean, seriously, let's put some more imagination into the perfect car.
Well, no. See, I'm not a car person, but B, I bought the car that I'd always sort of wanted, which was the Ute, the Holden Ute. So it's like a sports car. And then I used it for work. And I still like it. I still like the look of it. It's parked on the drive. If anyone wants to buy it, let me know. And I've got to get rid of it now. So now I've got a van, and that's more practical. But yeah, so that was my perfect car to a point. What would I change? I don't know. Better stereo probably, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I just, I drove my husband's, essentially his perfect car, which is a Mazda Miata. He's had it for years, and he's driving up later in my car because my car holds the dog. And so I'm driving his perfect car, and the only thing that his perfect car needs is it needs to be able to read my iPhone when I'm driving, because I could not get the stereo to pick up my iPhone so I could listen to podcasts and everything else. So it was quite the quiet drive with the top down in the heat. So that's what I would change.
First world problems.
I know, it is. It's completely 100% a first world problem. So next week we are going to talk about how to write for work and at work, right?
Yes, that's the idea, unless it changes magically.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do unless we don't do it. So that's,
Yeah.
you can count on us.
That's right. You can count on us to make the show up before we start. I like it. But hey, that's fine. And I hope we can get in contact with Alicia. It's a real bummer because she was going to be on a little while back but couldn't make it. So we'll see how we go because I really want to pick her brain about this whole writing a book in a weekend.
I do too. So we'll keep in touch with her, and it will happen.
Well, yeah, it better.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if anyone has got any writing tips or they want to hear about anything specifically, or even just a question, send it through. podcast@newbiewriters.com. Check us out on the web, newbiewriters.com. Come and say hi on Google+. Not enough people saying hi. Catherine, whereabouts are you on the internet?
Well, I am creating a lot more information through hashtag Newbie Writers on Twitter.
Cool.
So if you want, check that out. Follow that hashtag, and I'm putting in information. I'm putting in stuff from our guests, so that you can actually get something out of it, as opposed to simply, all I saw this last week on hashtag Newbie Writers was a very sincere Twitter, but it was much more, you should all hang out and talk to each other on hashtag Newbie Writers, and I thought that is not helpful information at all.
That wasn't me either.
Trying to mitigate that.
And I want to give a shout out.
Follow me on C. Bramkamp at Twitter, and go to my website at yourbookstartshere.com.
Cool. And I want to give a shout out to Jane Isaac, who is our ultimate newbie. I love Jane. She did a number of posts on our blog, which were awesome. Yeah. Lots of good feedback on that. So I'm going to keep pestering her. But check her out at janeisaac.co.uk. She's got 2 books, The Truth Will Out and An Unfamiliar Murder, which...
Very fun.
An Unfamiliar Murder, my mum read that and she really, really liked it. So...
Very cool.
She'll probably get the next one. So yeah, and also I want to give a shout out to another podcast called So You Want to Be a Writer. It's hosted by Alison Tate and Valerie Koo. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Do check it out. They're both Australian, so if you like the Australian accent, or if you don't like the Australian accent, they're just good at their show. So anyway, you can check that out at writerscentre.com.au, and you can find the links there to the podcast. And they're at episode 22 about creating character names, libraries in pubs, and various other things. So give them a go, give them some feedback. I listened to it. It held my attention. See, this is the thing. I'm very critical of podcasts. If I can't, I listen to them for about 5 minutes, and if I'm not liking it, off. But
right. Absolutely.
Listen to the whole show, so that was good.
There you go.
And they also talk about they mentioned Michael Quinion, who he has that website, that Worldwide Words, which we used to use for Word of the Week. So I had contacted him, and he doesn't want to come on the show. He says, my days of doing radio are done. Like, oh, okay.
All right. Well, that's an answer.
At least we got one.
That's right.
Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to this week?
Just my beta readers. You know who you are. Damien's definitely one of them. Beth Barani is going to get edits back to me. Connie Van Gilder is going to get back to me. So now I've shamed both of them. So they need to return their manuscripts to me. And to my friend Mara, who did return everything back and said, I love it, but that first chapter was really slow.
You have too many polite friends.
Oh well, if they have to drag that out of them, it means it's pretty darn slow. If they say, okay, I don't want to hurt your feelings or anything, but man, that was really slow.
Man, see, everyone needs an Australian friend to tell it like it is.
Absolutely.
We don't have time to just go, don't want to hurt your feelings, but it was crap.
It's crap. Just blurt it out.
Yeah. Don't dodge the bullet. All right. So that'll do it for this week. Apologies for not having our guest on. we're all good to go.
Traffic happens, just like other stuff happens.
It does. All right. So, till next week. See you then.
Till next week.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.